like how anybody can run a business as an aspiring business owner or just trading in general.
Yeah. So you are the same person, the same KRA PIN. Your personal KRA PIN will be the same KRA PIN for the business.
So the major disadvantage is that you can be sued personally. So even if it's, let's say, for example, I own a shop and then the shop sells to you something that is spoiled. So you sue me as Aquila Mokaya Trading as Ebenezer Shop.
Which stage of this also is that you will still be taxed personally. The LLP is not subject to a tax.
Corporate tax.
Yeah, to corporate tax, now like companies, which we'll discuss later. Hello and welcome to the Sisters-in-Law podcast. My name is Beverly Mokaya and I'm here with
Aquila Mokaya. In this podcast, we talk matters law.
From talking about family law to employment law to explaining to you how contracts work, commercial agreements, you name it, we got you covered.
And remember to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment down below. So on today's episode, we'll be talking about business vehicles that are available to us in law, like how anybody can run a business as an aspiring business owner or just trading in general.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have heard of things like sole proprietorship, partnerships, companies. These are the different business vehicles that are available for you in law. We just want to explain to you the different advantages and disadvantages of using either business vehicles. So I think we can start with the least complex,
which is sole proprietorships,
and then we'll just keep moving to partnerships, and then you talk about companies.
Yeah.
So sole proprietorships is where you and the business are one. You're not separated in any way. You are the business and the business is you. So for example, if it's let's say you're an auctioneer you would be like, let's say, Aquila Mokaya Trading as X auctioneers. Yeah, so you are the same person, the same KRA PIN. Your personal KRA PIN will be the same KRA PIN for the business. But this has a lot of disadvantages, less advantages. It's just it's the traditional way of doing things, because most people have not been introduced to trading as a company, or maybe they assume that your business has to be big or global for you to trade with a company.
Yeah, it's also important to note that as a sole proprietor, you mostly don't register. It's just you're just running a business.
Yeah,
like maybe a shop. You call it Ebenezer Shop or something. So on sole proprietorship, you are the one who is the owner of the business. You do your math. If it's filing returns, because you have not registered it, you're going to file as personal returns, because just as you said that the KRA PIN is the same.
Yeah.
So the major disadvantage is that you can be sued personally. So even if it's, let's say, for example, I own a shop and then the shop sells to you something that is spoiled. So you sue me as Aquila Mokaya Trading as Ebenezer Shop, which now puts me in a position where I am liable for this, as opposed to if it was a different business vehicle, would have a totally different case. So like it will maybe be Beverly versus Ebenezer Shop, for example. Yeah.
Okay, so another disadvantage of it would be if you get, like, let's say, for example, if you ask for a loan, if you get a loan facility from a company and then you default on it, they can come for your personal assets, because like I said, you are the business is you. There's no separation at all. So the risks that are incurred on the business are actually personal risks on your personal property or your personal assets. So it's not advisable. You don't have to register it, but you can register it on eCitizen as a business name. You'll probably just need 950 shillings. But it doesn't come with a lot of advantages. If you were to come to me as an advocate, I would advise you to trade as a company as opposed to as a sole proprietor. Yeah, but I think it's just a whole mindset shift. You don't have to, some people like to hog the money to themselves, but you don't want that scenario. It's better if you separate it so that your company, your business funds are separate from your personal funds. Just in finances also, legally speaking, you will be separate from
The business.
the business.
Yeah. So from the sole proprietor, you can have a partnership. But you see, the major point of a partnership is that the partnership should be conducting business that brings in profit. That is the core of a partnership. So under partnerships, you'd have either would be general partners or would be limited partners. So on general partnership, it's just the basic Aquila and Beverly generally, and you must not register it because also it doesn't have more requirements. So on the issue of general partnerships, the only advantage, or it has a few advantages like flexibility, because we are just the two of us. We do not have, the only document that we might have is a partnership deed, but mostly on like general partnerships, people do not really focus on the partnership deeds, because now when you go to limited partnerships, the partnership deeds are registered are registered in BRS.
General partnership is just like two sole proprietors,
Yes.
if you ask me.
Yes.
So it's just in the name, but
Yeah,
it's not neither
anything,
here or there.
Yeah. The advantage is that you are pulling capital together. The two of us are now pulling capital together to start a partnership and focus on this specific business. Because also, if you look at the tax advantage, is that there is no double taxation. Because you see on other entities where we are separate from the business, for example, if it's maybe a company and myself, I'll be taxed individually because now I'll receive dividends and then I'll be taxed separately. But now for general partnerships is that whatever income we get from this GP, we share it, maybe however we had agreed to share, and then now I am taxed personally. Now it's now my personal income. That is the only advantage that we have, that there is no maybe corporate tax or whatnot that comes up after during taxation of a general partnership. Yeah.
And mostly I've found that the kind of businesses that usually go for partnerships are law firms, also accountants, like mostly this professional, like an accounting firm or a law firm. Yeah, or I think also engineering, you can do a partnership.
The problem that I think comes up with general partnerships is majorly on liability. It's just that, just the way you said, we could be two sole proprietors coming together to now become a partnership.
Yeah.
So now, if we get into a contract that makes us liable, for example, that means I could be personally liable as a partner, because now the partnership ideally acts as a sole proprietorship, but now it has two people who are running it. So like two partners or maybe three or whatever now. Yes.
Yeah. So, but the good thing with partnerships is that there's also a way that you can trade in a partnership but still be separate from the business. Now that's the limited liability partnerships. They're generally mostly known as LLP. For example, Beam Law advocates LLP. Yeah. So like there you, let's say, because we are the partners there, it's different. We are separate from the law firm or from the LLP. So that if let's say you ask for a loan as the business, as an LLP, you ask for a loan from a bank, you get a loan facility. If you default, they can't come for my personal assets. They can't come for our seats or like our personal things. They can only come for the property that belongs to
the limited
liability partnership.
Yes.
So that's a very big advantage, because now you see you are separate. Yeah. Any liability, anything. Let's say if you mess up, in any way, let's not give very specific examples, but let's say if you mess up in any way and it's not on your personal liability, because there are cases where you'd be held personally liable. Mostly it's the business vehicle. In this case, the LLP, which will be held liable.
Yeah.
And then now the advantage of this also is that you will still be taxed personally. The LLP is not subject to a tax.
Corporate tax.
Yeah, to corporate tax, now like companies, which we'll discuss later.
Yeah. So, however, on that tax issue, just as you said, it's not liable for any other taxation. It can be taxed as a corporate entity if, for example, you have employees. So when you have employees, you have to register for pay, because now you are paying their taxes as their employer. when it's the biggest advantage that it has as against companies is that you do not do corporate. Like it reduces your tax liabilities. However, if you haven't, like now, if you have a law firm, we bring in associates, we'll have to declare tax on them. They pay now.
So the advantage of the LLP would be that you won't pay corporation tax, so the personals would be liable to pay income tax on their profits at the end of every year. Yeah. So the only thing that you would probably be, the tax you'd be concerned with is, of course, register for VAT, because it's you're dealing with taxable services, right? And then, of course, pay for your employees, and then now your personal taxes as the first ones. Yeah. So ideally, it does not affect the amount of profit you get the person, because if those corporate, for example, it means that the money will be taxed from the company level or that business vehicle level, and again it will be taxed on you because it's how going to be your income. Somehow that would taxation arrives. But the importance now of having such a type of partnership is that the profits are shared. Now that yearly, as we had said earlier, the profits are shared yearly, and then now when it's at the end of the day, when now you're declaring your income, you're declaring it as akujangokara. Yes. Yeah. So for an LLP, you need an LLP agreement, because this is what governs the relationship between the partners. Yeah, the relationship between the business partners. Yeah, and when you're going to, of course, you need your advocates to help you out with this, and then when you're going to, you need your advocates to help you out with this, and then when you're going to register with PRS, you will be required to have the LLP agreement together with other. Oh, and by the way, you have to have a manager for you. That's a requirement. You have to cover managing partner. So again, like I said, partnerships mostly you would find accounting firms, maybe engineering firms, and law firms. Yeah, I'm not seeing a medical one, but I think I'm also they could also, because mostly professionals. It's just begging as professionals to use a different business vehicle. That's yeah. Okay, so now as we move to like more complex business variables, we now go to companies. So under company, they'd have both. That could be private and public, but that's now under limited, because mostly for companies, the major thing about companies is that they're totally separate. It's a totally separate entity from their shareholders. Now shareholders are the owners, the ones who probably maybe give money at the beginning. So now the shareholding is like according to how much you had contributed, about what. So now at the very basis of a company is that it's a separate legal entity. So it can sue, it can be sued, and it can also own property. Yeah, is. Yeah, and it also has, there's something called perpetual succession, in that even if the shareholders, some of the shareholders die, the company will still be in existence. So if you're looking for a long-term business vehicle, something that will outlive you, you need to register a BAM. Yeah, once you die, you don't die with the business. So proprietorship, if you die, you're one of the business dies. Yeah. General partnership, if a partner dies, the partner can be dissolved. Yeah. So for a company, that's the advantage also. It has perpetual succession, and it will keep living until it's dissolved by the current shareholders or corporates. Yeah. So the other thing is, so about the other advantage about company is that at the very basis of a company, when I said that they can sue and they can be sued, once we get into when we get in liable, the company is being sued. What does it say? Like, yeah. So now, if they find that the company owes somebody some amount of money, ideally, if it was like sole proprietorship, so when the company is liable, for example, the company sell food, and then somebody gets food poisoning, so they would not, in as much as you can be a party to the suit, but let's say for example Safaricom that has so many shareholders, he will sue Safaricom as a company indirectly. So for example, the court declares that the company is liable. If the company is insolvent, execution is only done to the company. It's not as against the shareholders. Yeah, so basically I think of a company as a different person. Yeah. The company is a person on its own. The shareholders are people on their own, yeah? So any liability in any form, like I keep giving the example of defaulting loans, if the company defaults on loans, They can only come for the property that have been registered under the company name. They can't come for the personal property and the shareholders, Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention that a company can be limited by shared or it can be limited by guarantee. So guarantee just means that the founders of the company are guaranteed a certain amount. It is the liable to pay in the event that the company gets the liability or utility purchase. So we find mostly charitable organizations, NGOs, mostly with the companies registered limited by guarantee. Yeah, and then I think you mentioned an example of Safaricom, which reminds me that it could be a public company or a registered company. So for public companies, they're big companies which would be listed in the stock exchange. But private company, you can have a one-man company and then you don't have to put three people. They just be me and I register a company, as opposed to trading as, like I said, developing your car trading as X auctioneer. You trade now as a company, just have, let's say, X auctioneer's company. Yeah, auctioneer's company or auctioneering company limited. So that means we can't cancel you things.
So also, it's important to note that while you're giving out a name to a company during the registration, because a company has to be registered at the very initial stages.
It's around 12,000, 10,000.
So when you're registering a company, there are names that cannot be taken. For example, saying the word a government. You say Aquila Mokaya government. Like, I think the word government in the name, it would be rejected. Also, if the name has been used before, and also if the name is just not.
If the name is just not morally acceptable to the registrar, that's very relative, but yeah. Yeah, and also, of course, if the name is similar. For example, right now, you can't go and register Santa Maria Company or Santa Lucia or Santa Lucia or Safaricom. Like, I want to have my own Safaricom. They can't do that because it's already registered. Yeah. So mostly, of course, you would have to give names, the names that you have. When you're registering, when you go to your lawyer, you have to have at least 6 names. That's 6 proposed names. For example, if you want to open a hospital and you come up with Care, Ebenezer Care Limited or Buscola Caires or whatever, just something like that. And so this is where now the registrar will look at this. And of course, when you're listing, then you'll give them the order of priority. Yeah. And then the registrar will determine, okay, this one is available. Then the one that is available according to your list of priorities is actually the human. Yeah. And then now, of course, you have to fine any times every year. You don't file, there's a fine. So that's something else that a company comes. It comes with the most extra obligations where you have to, if you change, let's say, a physical location, if you change directors and have to update one as a job, and they have to keep filing PS, Yeah. So what are some of the tax obligations of a company? Like tax obligations that a company would have?
Corporate tax measuring. It is usually 30%. Yeah. And then now we go to VAT.
Yeah.
But now you see, because it's a company, it's going to be, of course, trading. That's the whole point of a company, to be trading on vertible goods and services. So depending on what type of company it is. So let's say it's a ABL for it. They see like ABL that's it factors up. So there are other taxes that are within, so like excise. So it has a bigger the tax base is wider. Because now there are so many taxes that can be put on that.
And by then nowadays, the good thing about companies is that to register a company, you don't have to specify what they call it there. Yeah, so you can register one company, very use it for, let's say, tendering. Today to use it, tomorrow for shoes and whatever. But of course, when you're going to now a citizen, you'll have to specify, for example, like say, for example, if it's a hospital, of course, you'll have to say, like the hospital, you'll have to attach things like, your license and whatever and things like that. But generally, the objects of a company are not limited. You can use them for anything. Yeah.
Because also right now, you really do not have to drop that cause of association. You just have to adopt the one that is given on the site. But you can drop. Or like it used to be so compulsory. Have to your own, like an article of association tailored to your business.
I think you're talking about the taxes. There's something I wanted to add.
just remember that even if your company is being, like we said, the company is a separate person, we're a separate person. The fact that the company is being taxed does not exempt you from being taxed. So you will get things from you will get some benefits from the company. And these are things that will be incorporated when you're computing your personal tax. Yes, I also wanted to add the issue of companies on the issue of taxation, which we have another video on. On the other advantages with company is that it can help you tax plan, really, on what taxes. You cannot not fail to pay taxes, but you can plan your business in a way that is going to help you minimize the tax. Yeah. So like, if you don't pay the issue, you have to, yes. So like on the issue of maybe dividends, plan them back and whatnot. But we have a separate video on that because it's so wide. Yes. Yeah, so of course there are other business vehicles, joint ventures and stuff, and just generally those who like franchising. Those have different ways people can ban the entire statuses, but I think it would be better if they tackle them on separate figures their wage, because they're very complex and there are things that you want to just focus on just that, and because the taxation around it is also very complex. But yeah, so like today was just about trying to give you the truth and trying to discourage you from using sole proprietorships, because you can get into debt, God forbid, and they will come for your personal things. Yeah, and that's something that will derail you from your business.
So with that, we're done with today's episode. I hope you learned. I hope you will avoid using sole proprietorships when you're doing your businesses, so that you will be separate from your business and avoid unnecessary liability. And you also ensure continuity
Of the business.
of the business. Yeah, so if you got to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe,
And
share, hit the notification bell.
give comments on what we should do next, or if
Yeah.
you have any questions
Yeah.
or inquiries. Bye.
Ciao.